In a typical year, the Mac Lab will be asked to make posters and graphics and promotional materials, logos, all kinds of stuff that the kids just can't do at the beginning of the year. For the most part, even my veterans are getting back in the groove, and for the most part, they have things they're working on and don't want to be distracted with something like this that came down last week. Hey, we need a poster for the basketball game for Thursday night and the football game on Friday night, and we need these things this size and have this information on them. So I just took this project as my own, and look how this is laid out. The background is on its own layer in Illustrator. And I told you, Illustrator and Photoshop, fork and a knife. Illustrator, all I have to do is work at the aspect ratio. They wanted these 30 inches wide, 18 inches high. Okay, so, and this is for print. Now, all our print work runs through Photoshop because Illustrator can't handle 180 pixels per inch. It's just not built into it. It's built for 300. And so for a number of reasons, we do it this way. And I want to show you how I handled this. And then I want you to make something in Illustrator, bring it into Photoshop. You don't bring in the background layer. You make that in Photoshop, and I noticed some of you in Illustrator working with drop shadows and things like that. Don't do that. Yes, Illustrator has that feature. No, Illustrator's nowhere near as good as drop shadows as Photoshop because drop shadows are pixels. Photoshop is the pixel. It is raster. It works with pixels. Illustrator works with vectors. And yeah, it makes vector drop shadows and they suck. No, they look good until you really look close. So how do you get this into Photoshop and do what I'm asking you to do as far as making a colored background and adding artwork? Hey, it's going to involve a smart object. So you see here, I've got the pricing information on its own layer. Now, why did I do that? Because both of these posters are going to have this other information, but both of them have different prices. So that's why I did this. And when you get down to it, and one of the design challenges was you got these long line of text, and then you had free with current ASB card sticker. How's that going to fit? Well, you use a little designer skill and tweak things around. I'm using two different fonts here, two different weights of this font, and then, well, we'll get into typography, font matching, and the rest. But let's just say that using multiple fonts together can and usually is a nightmare. You're going to learn how to mix fonts so they look, as if they belong together here. So what I want to do is, I need to hold down Shift. So I clicked on the meatballs so I can select everything here. And I know everything's here because I can hit Command X and it goes away. Now I'm going to hit Command Z so it comes back because I don't want it to go away. This has been approved. These have been printed. Everything's good to go. Now I'm going to jump over to Photoshop. I don't want this document. Command W. Okay? I want to make a new Photoshop document. Now, the one I make is not the one you make. You're probably going to make something 1920 by 1080, that web large. But I'm going to hit Command N. Eventually, you're going to work for print, but I'm still going to click on web because I want to be working in RGB. And the default print space is, well, I've got mine with RGB, but it goes to CMYK. Just keep on web. And here, don't work in inches, right? This is just for demonstration purposes. 30 by 18 is the size they wanted. Print resolution, 180 pixels per inch. I've talked about this before. In RGB. Background color, we're just going to leave it here. I'm going to change it out there. I want to have you see that. But I'm going to change this back to pixels so you can see, holy moly, 5400 by 3200. Unless we're working for print, don't you dare work this large. Okay? There's no need. We're working for the web right now. And web large is just fine. We're going to move beyond that soon. But for right now, your Photoshop document, think about web large, no bigger than that. It all depends on your Illustrator artwork. Now I'm going to create this. Hey, it says artboard. I screwed up, Command W. So I'm going to hit Command N again, and that's deselected. How did that get changed? When I switched to web, it got checked. That's how it changed. What was it, 5400 by 3800? I don't know. So 3018. And you can see me moving through with the tab key in order to, what the heck? Didn't I type 30 there? Oh, it changed when I changed resolution. Did that happen before and I didn't notice it? I got lucky if so. And once again, I'm going to change this back to pixels and just click Create. No artboard. I want you guys to be 100% aware of that. I want to change the background color. I'm going to double click on the well, it doesn't matter which one of these because I'm going to fill. And I'm going to type in FF6700. And because I know the background color on that Illustrator document, and that's what it is. Now, in order to get that, remember Option Delete, remember Command Delete. Here's a trick. See how this is on the left and this is on the right? Look at your left side of your keyboard. Option is on the left. Option Delete is on the left. To the right is Command Delete. So easy way to remember. Last step, we still have that information that I copied on the clipboard. I'm going to hit Command V, and Photoshop's going to default to pixels because Photoshop loves pixels. I don't want pixels. I want a smart object. I want that Illustrator file to come in as clean as possible. I want it to be vectors. Click OK. There's no softening, no anti-aliasing around the edge. I don't have to position this because it comes in perfect because the two documents are the exact same size. I hit return in order to commit this. And now we've got our text here and our background here. We've named our layers. We got our smart objects. We have the file that's the correct size. You are not working this size. My image size, look at this, 5400 by 3240 at 180. See, I didn't remember that second number, so it's good I didn't guess. And I'm going to hit cancel. So you're working from an Illustrator. I want you to bring artwork in from Illustrator as a smart object. You can bring multiple smart objects in from different Illustrator files if you want and play around with this. Come up with a composition where your background in Photoshop is not white. I want you to change that color and have other layers. For me, this, and then they had me print two up. So I worked on another document, flattened this, made them too wide, rotated 90 degrees, and printed two at a time. So we'll get to that, and I'll show you guys how to work for print, and I'll show you how to work like a pro and use typography so it doesn't look like an 8th grader did it, and you have something that can be used out in the real world. This is a skill that's marketable. And no matter what your career is, you are going to use typography. You are going to present your work visually. The more you know about color, composition, color harmonies, color theory, all of this, typography is all going to play into your sweet spot. It may seem scattered at first and a lot to remember, but I'm not asking you to remember. I'm asking you to follow instructions and practice, practice, practice. The remembering will come naturally. You don't cram in this class. You don't study. You know, how do I put a smart object in? You practice it. You practice it until you know it by heart. Got it? All right, so your file, which is no bigger than 1920 by 1080, is, and it can be a square. You know, it could be 1500 pixel square. You could do that as well. But I want this file to be saved as a JPEG and put on in your journal as a JPEG, right? Okay, you have learned how to bring an Illustrator file into Photoshop as a smart object. You want to know why that's cool? I can double click on this and it's going to open up, and the problem is it's all white, so you need to have another layer. See, it's all here. And I could change the color of this and make these a different color, save it, close it, and then back in Photoshop, after I close this thing and switch back to Photoshop, this would update. That's the cool thing about smart objects. Scotchko, you spelled students wrong. Okay, double click, spell it right, save it, close it, switch back to Photoshop, students is spelled correctly. Smart objects rock.